Warning! The following gameplay video was created by a scrub. If scrub gameplay disturbs you, stop the video now. Hello! Well, you probably saw the length of this video. I promise that I will not show too many of these runbacks. Okay. Where do I begin with this? I guess that's a good place to begin. While I was walking in, I didn't know the boss could do that. So that was kind of a surprise. Oh well. That's kind of the process to learning a boss, especially in a game where mistakes are punished pretty heavily. It uses an attack they haven't seen yet, and then that's pretty much it. And you just try to pay attention and do better next time. Speaking of which, I'm not quite sure how I dodged that. It usually doesn't work when I try it. But, well, at least not that way. Anyway, I did take a look at a previous video and see that the tell for that area of effect thing is the witch sort of hugging the spider. Which means that I'm not really allowed to hang too far back so that I can't see her due to the camera angle. But other than that, should be okay. I also haven't quite gotten the idea of how long I'm allowed to hit the spider when it does that long magma attack, but don't worry. I'll figure that out as things go along. Another thing that I hadn't quite figured out is the difference in tells between her short sword swing and her long poking sword flame attack. But we'll live and learn. Well, on that day I learned that the short magma attack and the long one are quite different, and I need to pay close attention to that. One of my problems, and this has haunted me in other games as well, is that when I start attacking, I look closely at what my character is doing, when really I should be paying attention to what the monster or other enemy is doing so that I know when to stop. This is especially inexcusable in Dark Souls, where it's not like I have to do any complicated combo inputs. Now, it is a little discouraging that after a fairly long DPS phase I do not very much damage. But I can only really blame myself for that, for being too lazy to farm upgrade shards, or perhaps find a different weapon to upgrade, something that might get through its armor better. Now, it took me a little while to figure out what killed me at the end, but yeah, oh yeah, I walked in poisoned. And that's going to happen a lot. That thing is very annoying for me because I didn't want to just wait out the poison every time, because this felt like a boss I'd have to attempt a lot, and having to wait each time would be, well, even if I skipped it like I just did there, it would be tedious for me and it would consume a lot of time. On the other hand, I didn't feel comfortable enough with the boss that I would consider using the moss to cure myself before a boss fight. I especially didn't want to run out before I had a decent chance of winning. Also, something I hadn't figured out is how to avoid that long startup flame attack. But don't worry. One of my goals here is to kind of experiment with possible angles and moves to attack the boss. Probably standing right in front of it will not avoid too many of its attacks. One of the possibilities of dealing with that sword attack is to just move back, because excuse me. Ooh, yeah. I still haven't figured it out because the long delay on that long lance attack thing makes the roll timing doubly difficult for me. Also, I was distinctly annoyed when I found out that its evade jump also hurt me. Fortunately, it's not that much. They could have easily ramped up the damage on that, and then that would have made me very sad. At this point, I was kind of afraid that there'd be some sort of second phase when I got the enemy down to low health, and it would start using all these different attacks that I would then have to learn again. Oh, before going into this particular battle, I checked to see if I had any shields that were better against fire. But actually, no, this one is as good as I was able to find. So I kind of gave up on blocking after this, but I really shouldn't have. Because it seems like nice insurance if I'm not 100% on whether I can move out of the way. I don't think blocking would help me with that attack, though. Wow. Also, if you were... well, I wasn't paying attention. Specifically, if I was having a whole lot of trouble with this boss, I believe it would be possible for me to go back home and buy Flash Sweat, which I should have bought anyway because, well... I mean, look at the introduction to the game. Fire is going to be a thing, and being able to protect myself against it would be pretty nice. I don't think it would have actually turned any of these early fights into victories, because I wouldn't really know how to dodge things anyway. Dark Souls is not that forgiving. Also, I learned something new there. Ooh, yeah, after you fought a boss 5 or 6 times and then it still can do things that you haven't seen before, that's pretty daunting, isn't it? And no, I hadn't considered shooting the woman on top of the spider. That's mostly because I've been neglecting my bow for quite a while, except as a pulling tool. And I didn't feel like I needed that for this fight. Not really. Maybe I can fix that sometime in the future. Sort of experiment with that more. Because, in general, experimenting with things usually leads to helpful results. That's been how it's gone so far, anyway. Oops. I think I got a bit greedy there. So, that particular sequence is what was most annoying for me for quite a while, because she likes to do it a lot, and I hadn't figured out a good counter for it, except right there. That right there. That was a big old clue. Of course, it's going to take a little more work to figure out what exactly I can get away with, but... So, looks can be a little deceiving. I thought for sure that the sword covered her whole front, but apparently it doesn't have as good coverage as I originally thought. Like right there. And all of a sudden, if I can sort of keep myself under control, that sword attack just became an opportunity for me to deal damage. Still, that's going to take some practice to work with. I imagine that's one of those attacks that's pathetically easy to avoid, but is pretty much instant death if you get hit by it. Okay, that poke right there is still a pretty big problem for me. because I hadn't figured out the roll timing for it. Also, this music really seems like old style music, like the kind they used back in the PlayStation. No, maybe not quite PlayStation 1 days, but maybe Demon Souls style. That's the best way I can describe it. It seemed pretty different from some of the earlier stuff, like the intro cutscene and the Escape from the Asylum cutscene. Well, I don't think that one even had music, but you get the idea. Man, looking back on this, it's kind of the feeling that I described before, like, now that I know everything seems obvious, and why is it taking me so long to get good and finish the boss fight? But of course, actually executing it when you don't really have an idea of what you're doing, that's something else. Now, I didn't actually see that one coming. It was just being cautious in general. Ooh. Yeah. The accidental forward plus attack strikes again. Though I may well have gotten hit anyway. So it's around this point where I have most of the attacks figured out, but my evasion consistency is not that great. This is where having a better weapon would help a lot. Because even if I hadn't gotten everything down perfectly, I might be able to luck out a little bit. For example, that last fight lasted quite a while. Yep, that's just about where I discovered that you don't actually have to dodge roll the lengthy flame lance attack. Yeah, okay. Now I have, now the biggest obstacle has changed. If I was paying more attention, I would have noticed that the jump actually has a limited distance, and if I see it coming, I can just run away from it a lot of the time. In fact, looking at how this went, I think it wouldn't be a horrible idea if I was facing a boss that was giving me trouble to just, I don't know, take a break partway through after a fight like this where everything seemed to not be going so well. Just kind of review the videos and take a deep breath, maybe get something to drink, and then come back with a better idea of what I'm doing, perhaps. Whoa! I actually got a stun there. I think it's because I was kind of on an upward slope and the scimitar might have just barely caught her. I'd also started to learn a little bit more about sort of the rest of the spider's posture when she did that get off me attack. The thing is, I didn't even realize at the time that I'd sort of picked up on it. Uh-oh. Well, sometimes it just pays to watch where you're going. There we go. That's a much better solution. Oops. You see, I was still a little bit cowardly. Like, it's pretty clear right now that being right next to the spider's head works pretty well a lot of the time. But my instinct is still to kind of back off when I see the boss moving forward. When I really should be doing the opposite. Yeah, dodging to the side doesn't really pay off with that jump attack. The lava spread is pretty wide. I think a better strategy would be to move up right by its head like normal, but hold down guard anyway, just in case it kind of moves in a weird way, or my own movement is off. Because I wasn't planning to hit back anyway. Whoa, that was rude. It also seems like hitting the spider body deals a fair bit more damage than just hitting the leg. I didn't even think about that at the time. The damage difference doesn't seem to be that big, though. And yep. Poison caught me again. I'm allowed to hit when she's doing that. So, aside from cartwheeling into lava, something I should pay attention to is when she's kind of between attacks, maneuvering and rotating, it's pretty safe to get a couple of hits on. It depends on the animation. Like, if she's turning without any animation of the spider legs, then it's not safe to hit her because she's about to attack. But like right there, when she's slowly turning and all those sound effects of the spider legs are playing, she isn't about to attack, so it's safe to hit. Also, try not to put yourself between her and a wall when you're attacking, especially, because that'll make it really tough to avoid the circle of death. Well, I say that guarding would be a safer strat, but I wonder if it also increases your hitbox in some way. I've seen other video games that do that. Okay, an example. In Capcom fighting games, crouching actually increases your horizontal hitbox. So, standing up allows you to evade some things that would tag you otherwise. Although, of course, that's extremely situational. What else? Well, there's some 2D shooters where getting a shield increases your hitbox, especially the Gradius games. Although, I think Darius does that as well. Yeah, that's right. Listen to me talk about Darius while I'm commenting on this video. Uh-oh. So, fun fact, I wasn't even paying attention to the boss's health as I was doing this. Which is good, because I would have been pretty upset if I had realized how close I was there. Well, that's a less good start than usual. So after this, it's gonna be kind of hard for me to argue that, oh, after learning the boss, I could probably beat her pretty much every time. It would probably take, at least a little more practice. Maybe 3 or 4 runs. Depending on what my gear is at the time. But with the right responses to what she does, I think I could make that happen. Well, okay, that applies to every fight in the game. That clearly wasn't the right response. I'll tell you what though, if I had to do all my commentary while I was going through all this, the commentary would not be so great after around halfway through, I'd say. I had decided, well, maybe not consciously, but I was waiting for it to do that area attack because that gives me a good chance to throw out some Estus. I didn't say that right. Also, I should have taken 2 swigs of it at that point, but... Oh yeah, there is one other thing I had considered, which is... in the first few runs, I hadn't even remembered that the game doesn't check to see if you have enough stamina before you try to do something. It only checks to see if you have any stamina at all, which is why I got the idea of using my heavy attack when my stamina was about to run out. Combo finisher. Probably would not work against most bosses because I'd need to leave at least a little bit to roll away afterwards. Like there. Alright, that's the spirit. Now that move struck me as pretty odd. Usually it only does that when I'm far away. Uh-oh. That time I was looking at the boss health and... whew, I got really close to losing, but... like right there especially. I probably should have just gotten killed right there, but apparently I did. And I think this is the first boss I fought that gives me a specific soul. Not quite sure what to do with it. Obviously, I shouldn't just pop it for more souls because unique items tend to have unique effects somehow. But most likely I'll just carry it with me to the end of the game and not use it for anything. Well, I guess it's a good thing I didn't go further up that elevator first, huh? Ooh, when you have guys like that, who needs pulleys or complicated gate systems? Also, I wonder how long that guy in the onion helmet was waiting. Also, I was kind of wondering if that's something I needed to jump down, but I didn't feel like trying something like that when I was carrying this many souls with me. On the other hand, this way forward might be, well, the way backwards, like through a shortcut or something. It might be. But, as you no doubt already know, it's actually not. Well, this is new, it's different, and I'd probably just stop right here and turn around, except there's a bonfire, so I'm actually kind of safe. And what are those in the distance? Well, let's go find out, maybe. Well, maybe there's something interesting around here. You guys do not look so healthy. You also look very weird, and I want to stay away from anything that's weird. Well, this seems to be Lava Town. Whew, almost fell off. Yep, it stops right there, alright. Well, that's all I need to know. Although it does look like, on further inspection, there is a gate that I might be able to reach. Well, so, there's a couple of things I can do. If I just go down there, of course I won't be able to get back without a homeward bone, but I gotta stop being afraid of that sort of thing. Also, it might not be a good idea to just wander around with all these souls in my pocket. So what do I need? Oh yeah, I've been repairing my gear pretty regularly every 4 or 5 boss run attempts, just to be sure. And if that last boss attack showed me anything, it's that I need to improve my hitting power a bit. But also, I think I'm going to have to finally bite the bullet and take the advice to increase my strength a point. I don't like it. I don't expect to use anything that scales off of strength, but there's at least one potentially useful weapon I have that's stuck because I'm a strength point short. So yeah, these souls are going towards offense, and actually let's try it out. Not the server, that would be silly. But there was at least one thing I had found. Yeah, it's this one. This is a thing that's scaled off of dexterity, and well, I don't like the really wide swings because I'd been previously fighting in a lot of enclosed spaces where it would just bounce off of a wall or a branch or something. Also, it seems that I can actually two-hand that thing. And I think the animation of swinging these swords when you don't have the strength is really funny. I appreciate that. This weapon also has wide swings, but I think what I want to do is use this in boss battles where I wouldn't be blocking much anyway. Even though in the last boss battle it probably would have been very useful for me to block more. Well, what can I say? I'm sure that this situation will come up at some point. Who knows? Well, I guess that's it. Thanks for bearing through this rather long video. I'll see you next time.